Hey, what's going on, family? Welcome to another episode of The Finance Bro. We have real conversations with real people about money. Today, I have my boy Black on here. We known for having great conversations. It's gonna be great having him on the show. You know, radio host. At one point, he definitely can hold a good conversation, and he has a lot of great information I know is going to eventually get passed through this show that we all can learn from. So, before we get too far in the conversation, Black, please introduce yourself, my brother.
What's going on, people? My man. Glad to be on the show. And the smoker. Big fan, of course. And I've been watching your work for a while, and I'm real happy to be here. It's good to take the regular conversations that we always have and just record it. There's so many times we've talked and rocked out, and we said, man, if we could have recorded this,
Yeah,
the way it
yeah.
just flows. But a little bit about me. My real name is Eric Blackwell. You can find me on Instagram at Black Buys Houses, and that is who I am. I buy houses. My background,
Yeah.
like E said, radio, and we'll get into the details later, but radio, club DJ, it's serial entrepreneur. I can't help it. Getting a 9 to 5 just makes my skin crawl. I feel a little nauseous right now just thinking about it. But club DJ, club promoter, and then I went on to owning several clubs. And at the end of the day, it was all to get into real estate. That was the whole point. And we here now.
Hey, we in here. So to start the conversation off, so for the listeners, the other day, actually, I think it was last night, yesterday.
Yeah.
I see that I'm getting pictures from Black right here, and I'm like, what's he sending me? And it's a picture of some quesadillas and some cheesesteaks. And we about a week or so ago, we spoke about how just finding ways to cut money and without having to cut, I guess, access to the things you're getting. So like, if you want quesadillas, well, normally would you go to Taco Bell or one of the Mexican places, and you might not be as satisfied with it, or you spend a lot more money. But through making these meals on your own, now you can ensure that it's going to be good because you cook just like I do. But also you get more bang for your buck, right? You might spend $15 with some quesadillas in one spot, but $15 you might have a couple meals off of that. It's very different. So to start the conversation off, what led to you getting there, and let's just go from there.
Honestly, what led to me getting there was you, to be honest with you. And a little bit of background. We're both former military, obviously.
Right.
I don't think I even mentioned that, but yeah, 4 years military, honorable discharge, the whole nine. I'm 39. E, you're like
30.
20, yeah, 30.
Yeah.
I thought you were like 29, 30. But I'm 39. I learn things from you every time we talk, So
Yeah.
the first thing is being open-minded enough to learn from anybody and don't say, oh, I'm older than him, I can't learn nothing. Man, you said something, I think it was, had it been like 3 months ago now. You said, if I'm hungry and I go in the freezer and there's nothing there, then I messed up and I guess I just ain't eating today. And I was like, man, because the amount of discipline it takes to hold yourself accountable at that kind of level. And it resonated with me. And I just started refusing to go out to eat. I started refusing to, and I started going for groceries. And if I had an urge to eat something specific, I started looking up copycat recipes on that specific thing. So last night, it wasn't even a quesadilla, it was a Crunchwrap Supreme. My son likes Crunchwrap Supremes from Taco Bell. That's what he wanted to eat. So I made Crunchwrap Supremes, Taco Bell copycat recipe, and slapped, okay? Slapped. And the amount of money I spent versus how much it would have cost to buy that, I think I made like 4 of them for the price of what it would have been at Taco Bell, So, and like you said, what's in it. And you save an extreme amount of money.
That's the big thing too, because I remember back in the day, everybody's talking about, oh, Taco Bell using like prison grade beef and all of this stuff, and it's like we show
Dog
concern
meat.
for it, but we still eating it, and it's like, well, why don't we just go make it? Like at least if we go to, now granted, not saying that everything that comes from the grocery store is top notch either, especially in America, but you got more control over what's going into that product than you do when it's in the kitchen in the back of a Taco Bell.
That's right.
You're not getting something that's been sitting on the line all day, because that was part of my issue. That's really one of my biggest issues with going to eat or going out to eat, and is that I have a hard time going to spend money out to eat and risking the fact that I might not be satisfied with what I spent that money on, because then my mind directly goes to, now I sit down, I eat this meal, and I spent $35, and I'm not, it's terrible. Now what, I have nothing to show for. I didn't enjoy my meal. I'm down $35. What
Yep.
is the point? When I could have took that $35 to the grocery store, and then we could have made something really shake.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But along with that, what what other ways, because it all ties down at the end of the day to managing your money and having direction and the discipline, right? Like the thing you were mentioning, I forgot about that conversation, but for the listeners, basically what that conversation entailed was, I got to the point where I had to hold myself accountable to the small things. And what that means is, it's easy to not prep your food or have something prepared. You go, you got work the next day, you're doing stuff the next day, and then what do you typically do? Oh, I don't have food. Now I'm gonna eat out 3 times a day. I'm gonna go buy this stuff that I don't need because I failed to plan. Well, that's a slippery slope, right? So in order to address that, what I had to do was hold myself accountable. And I guess this wouldn't work for everyone, but for those of you who are dedicated enough, uh, when I failed to plan, I would feel pain, right? And everybody knows the 12 P's. Piss poor preparation promotes piss poor performance. Piss poor performance promotes pain, right? So, with that being said, if I failed to plan, well, then my pain was starvation until I got home and was able to cook something for the day. So, if I didn't want to be hungry throughout the day, I had to be better with my time and plan to provide those meals for myself so that when I was hungry, I could eat. But what I wasn't going to allow myself to do was, coddle myself through spending extra money that didn't need to be spent because I didn't have the discipline to plan ahead of time.
It's crazy. Last week, your episode, I forgot his name, your man up there,
Monte.
Monte. Shout out to Monte. I don't know you, but I know you. I see you. He made something, he made a good point, especially as a father. He made mention of, you wake up in the morning and Apple took your money overnight while you're asleep. And what resonated with me with that is, it's the little things. So you look at your funds that you make available to yourself, hopefully, because I know I hide half my money where I can't even touch it. I don't factor it in. Like that don't exist. But what you do make available to yourself, you look at it, and when it's not where you thought it was, quickly, you're like, what did I buy? And you're expecting to see, like, a 85-inch TV. Like, I didn't even get anything. I haven't even been shopping. Like, what is going on? And it's those little things, those little subscriptions, that little, trip to Taco Bell for lunch. You went to Pizza Hut for dinner. In the morning, you went to McDonald's for breakfast. And it's that little $10, $20, $15, $11, $11.99 subscription for, I think your man was talking about Stars, and he ain't watched BMF and those things. And they're not dumb. They know that you only subscribe for this show, but by the time the season's over, you're going to forget to turn it off. And they're going to keep getting you. And next thing you know, it's been a year that you've been paying $11.99. Do the math on that. And then look at how many different things are charging you. And then look at the little amounts of lack of discipline you had buying this little thing, that little thing, that stuff adds up. And so that kind of goes back to answering the original question of, how did I get to that point of, doing a lot more cooking, a lot more saving, having accountability. It's that little stuff that adds up, $20 times, was it 5? That's $100, you know what I mean?
And so it's funny you bring up like the subscriptions and things, because as a company commander, one of the things I used to sit down with the Marines and talk to them about was those small purchases and how they add up over time. Right? They'd be like, oh, I'm just going to the MCX and I might only spend like $6 a day. Well, how much of that money is that over a month? How much money is that over a year? What about the times that you spend more than $6? Right? There's so much more that adds into it, and they look at it in the day, but don't assess it over time. Right? Like if I continue to nurture this habit over time, what is it going to cost me? And yep. Like you said you sat down and you did an audit for your finance, which I always tell everyone. Step one, you have to audit yourself. Like you can't figure out where you need to go if you don't know where you are currently. And one of the biggest things besides eating out, right? Because that's one of those things, just swipe and forget. And it's so much easier to do now. Like we had Amazon and you have everybody, their spending went from physically going to stores to, oh, now it's even easier for me to spend money. I can click a button on Amazon and I have a box here every other day. And now with eating out, I don't feel like cooking. Well, now you got to, because normally back in the day, if you still hungry, you still got to drive to the restaurant or drive to the store. Now, hey, I'm going to pay that $45 for a burger, and it's like, when you think about it, it's like, bro, Five Guys, for instance, if anybody listening to this has ever ordered food on DoorDash from Five Guys, you know how expensive it can get. And it's like, bro, why are you paying $40 for a burger and some fries just because you didn't feel like going to get it? And that's one of the things I tried to do too this year is say, if I wanted, say there is something like, maybe I want some Checkers or something. The easy route is pressing the DoorDash button, right? But like, how bad do I really want it? If I really want it, I'm gonna go get in that car and drive to the place I want to eat and go get it. But the problem is, I don't feel like driving. Well, then you don't really want it. What's in the pantry? What's in the freezer? What's in the refrigerator? You better figure it out, because we don't have time to get there. But like, also, it becomes much easier to address these situations when you have a purpose for your money. Like you have a purpose for your money. You're buying properties, you're doing your entrepreneur, you know that your money has value, and the only way to grow that value is to put it into things that can continue to pay you on the back end. Whereas the average consumer is just spending money on things that they won't even have to show for it in the next month. You ask, hey, I see you spend $1,000, had nothing to do with how your living expenses or your car, credit card. Like, where did this money go? And it's like, bro, you got to get some control there. And I feel like a lot of people sit around and wait for, somebody to come knock at their door like, hey, did you look at your finances this month? And it's like, oh, you know what? I didn't. Can we sit down and do that? And it's not going to happen, right? Everyone has to decide or find a reason for themselves to take better care of their money, because at the end of the day, we're all trading our precious time, which we'll never get back, to earn that money. But if we care so much about our time that we don't allow people to waste it, why do we allow ourselves to waste it as well?
And they're just handing it away. That's the crazy part. You're just handing your money away for things that have no value. I think me and you touch on that word all the time. That's a big word for me.
Yeah.
Value. It's not about the cost of something. It's not about the price. People act like they don't have any money when they do. Everybody has money. Nobody's actually, not nobody, but some people are actually broke. But a lot of people that think they're broke are not actually as broke as they think they are. It's about value. So when you look at value, the higher the value goes, then the lower the cost goes. Prime example, how long is somebody going to stand in line? The same people that don't want to open that light bill and want to put it off till next week. Me and you talked about this the other day. Putting it off. I'm gonna do those dishes in the morning. People that put things off, you put it off because it doesn't have value to you. You put the light bill off because to you, it's not value. But yet you'll pay an extra $20 to skip the line and go in the club. Value. Why does the same, let's go back to clubs. I'm a big club person from back in the day. Clubs, I witnessed the most belligerent examples of what people consider valuable in the club. Just sitting back and observing people and their behavior, the behavior that you can observe in the clubs. I'm a people watcher. The exact same place that people either A, want to go, or B, don't even like. they'll pay absorbent amounts of money to get into, depending on what's going on there. If something major is going on there, now they want to be there. Now they're begging to get in after they just got done dogging the place on Facebook or Snap or whatever. Oh, Big Boogie's going to be there. Oh, now it has value. You just said you hate this place last week, but now you're calling every favor you got, and who do you know it's working inside? Value. It's value. What makes a man that doesn't have much money walk in a club full of dancers? Because I know the show's for everyone, so we're gonna call them dancers, entertainers. What makes a man go in there that doesn't have much money and throw it in the air, throw fistfuls of money that they don't really have to spend,
pride and ego,
throw it in the air? Pride and ego. Why? Because they want people to see them a certain way. That is value to them. And everyone has different values. Everyone has different things that are valuable to them. For me, my kids eating is valuable. So I'm not making it rain ever. I am not throwing money, period. Like, I'm not doing it. But for some people, it's valuable because it brings attention from the opposite sex or anything. For them, that's value. And so I say all that to say this: what you decide to value is going to determine what you're willing to pay for something. Because if it means enough to you, you don't flip the tag over and see how much it costs. You look at it and say, I want that, and therefore I will do anything for it. So you have the power to determine what is valuable to you.
So part of that takes sitting back and actually doing some thinking, which we've had many conversations about the fact that many people don't. So people get upset with me because I'd be like, the average person doesn't think, right? And they'd be like, well, everybody thinks. And I was like, okay, let me make this a little clear. Yes, people don't think through things, right? They might think about what's going on, like, oh, these things are happening, right? But no one ever dives a little deeper into the problem to figure out why, right? Like, oh man, I keep going in the red every month. It is what it is, as opposed to the person I keep going in the red every month, and it's like, oh, where I have 6 subscriptions that I haven't used this whole year. Let me get rid of those. Like, oh, every time I go out with such and such, I spend money that I don't need to spend. Like, maybe I should remove myself from that situation. Maybe we should have a conversation and say, hey, look, here's where I'm trying to go. But that brings up a whole nother thing, is that people don't know where they're trying to go. They don't know what they're trying to do. So here's a question. When I was talking with Trust one day, and I was like, hey, it was a day after I'd been doing, at night, I think we all kind of got the same routine. At night, we kind of like think through and, write through thoughts and try to break down thoughts. And one of the things that I realized was that, at least from my experience with clients, right, is clients and like conversations that I've had throughout people here, is I think many people keep themselves in unfortunate financial circumstances because they're trying to escape something, and their escape, the means that they use to provide that escape for themselves, typically cost them a lot financially. Like, I want to escape the household because I'm not happy here, where you go to the club, you do those things, right? You take expensive vacations you shouldn't be doing, like you're going out to these different places and doing these different things that you shouldn't necessarily be doing, which ultimately creates a situation where the true situation, which is you being unstable financially, which is the real issue, instead of addressing it, the things that you try to use to circumvent the situation that you're in just put you deeper into that hole that you're already trying to escape. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's all about the seeds we sow. And if you're sowing those kind of seeds, like you just said, it's putting you deeper, and you're gonna pay for it later. I do think, though, I don't blame anybody that's doing those kind of things unless they know better. I'll take it to our community for a minute. I feel like a lot of it is education.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people do those kind of things, and they're sowing these seeds through their actions, taking the expensive vacation you shouldn't have to try to escape.
Mm-hmm.
And then paying for it for the next year sometimes, um but it's a matter of education. And if you don't know any better, you would do things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I've done it. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
gonna act like I haven't done it.
Oh, we all have.
I absolutely have done it. And a lot more recent than I care to admit, to be honest
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah.
Don't I'm on this show. It's a privilege to be here, but don't for a minute think that I've got it all figured out, because I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I still make dumb mistakes that I'm like, why did I do that? That was so ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it is education. It's a lot of education, especially coming from where we come from. I didn't know any better. I didn't know, former military people, an allotment. I'm like, what? I don't have to pay for this now? That's what's up. And now when my paycheck is $10, but my car is thumping though. Can't put any gas in it, but I got the biggest system on base.
Hey, I got the parking lot lit.
Parking lot's lit. I can't drive anywhere, but the parking lot's lit. It's lessons and it's learning. And if you don't know, then the sooner you wake up, the better. And that's why, good people like you are out here teaching people,
Yeah.
putting out that good content for people to understand. But to me, that's the answer. It's education, financial literacy, period.
Mm.
And just making good decisions. And then real quick, because I don't want to go on a tangent, I can do that. But especially about stuff like this, I could get on a tangent. But the main thing is your self-identity, actually. That's what it comes down to. Are you the kind of what do you identify as? What kind of person are you to yourself? You can lie to everybody else, but who are you to yourself? I am the kind of person that makes my bed when I get up in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
I am the kind of person that doesn't leave dishes overnight for the next day.
Mm-hmm.
I am the kind of person that doesn't lie. I'm the kind of person that doesn't cheat on my woman. I am a real estate investor. I am an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
I am a great father. What you identify yourself as, I am financially responsible.
Mm-hmm.
That's who you'll be. And I think a lot
Mm.
of people don't identify as these responsible people. And that's why they do careless things.
So two things in response to that. One, I think awareness ties into what you were saying as well. I think being unaware can be extremely dangerous to an individual as well as to those that they associate with. Because if it's bad enough for you to lead yourself and be unaware of your surroundings and your circumstances, what's going on. It's even worse when there's a collection of people that are unaware together, because now you're making bigger, more drastic decisions as a unit because no one's aware of what's actually going on. And then the other piece too is, when it comes to making decisions, right, in the education piece, I think people need to, like, it starts with doing kind of use of that self-evaluation. And I think the one of the biggest things that need to be done is one of the conversations like these, and people need to hear them, because one, I think especially in our community, I think I know within our community, it's kind of taboo to speak about money in the first place, right? But if I'm consistently in these groups, I can go point to a group and like, hey, how many times y'all are like a best friend group, y'all together every week, right? How many times do y'all discuss personal finance, investing, like what you want to do to further yourselves? Typically the answer is zero, right? And it's like, how do you encourage people to start having these conversations to get around these things? Because most times, at least from my experience, especially being here in Jacksonville, right, getting out of the military was a very eye-opening, because for one, I had to grow, But through that, as I started meeting people in the normal civilian populace, I realized that as they met me, they started to be able to identify the the holes in their plan, the holes in their network, the holes in their friend group, the holes in their education. And it wasn't like I was coming through and like being like, oh, you messed up. But it's just they saw how I carried myself. They see the things that I put value in. They see the things that I don't put value in. They see the things that I'm not willing to budge on. And they're like, wow, what makes him do that? And it's okay, hey, can you tell me more? And through conversation, now they're like, wow, I want to do that too. And I think, most people sit around waiting for someone to come give them the answer. But like for me, I as a man, I know one thing I know for certain, ain't nobody coming to save me, right? So I have to do the work myself, right? And through me doing the work myself, I can be the one to change things. I could be the one to motivate someone to see it, look at a picture differently. Because if I didn't take the effort to see the other side of the picture, who else was going to do it? Now we all going to be sitting here looking. I can't leave, my I guess as a man, I refuse to leave the outcome of my life to someone else when I know that I can be in control and do what I need to do every day to get it where it needs to be.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can't. We've touched on this before as well. As a man, nobody's coming to save you
Nah.
at all. And as an alpha male, I don't want nobody to come save me.
Nah.
Period. I don't want it. Like, no thanks, I'll pass. But you can't sit around waiting for some miracle to fall out of the sky. You have to take control of your situation. You have to. You have no choice. And like we always say, accountability. Do not sit around blaming everybody else for why this didn't work out, that didn't work out. And your circle, you made a strong point there about who surrounds you and what kind of conversations is your peer group having. You could think you're gonna make it further by being the smartest person in the room. You're not. You're not. My pop said, iron sharpens iron, and he's not lying. It's conversation. That's why I'll just call you out of nowhere. Around right after the gym, because I know what time we both get busy. So I say, okay, this is my window. I'm gonna call him. And I simply don't have the time to talk to people anymore and just shoot the, what?
Yeah.
I don't
Shoot the
have time
breeze.
for that. I don't have time to shoot the breeze with you. I can kick it with you if somewhere in our conversation is going to be something about, the future. That's not to say we don't have a good time, because we do. We have a good time. It's not that we don't get lit, because we do. But, most of our conversations need to be sharpening one another, talking about personal finance and the future and what kind of moves we're making this year and accountability. I think when I first met you, you were one of the only people to check back in with me and ask, hey, when's your course come out? What's the date? And then you followed up like, hey, that course drops today, right? And I remember when I told you the date, you said, give me a minute, I'm going to write that down. I'm like, this man's writing down the date on my release? Like, what? Like, that's the kind of friends I need,
Yeah.
which is categorically different than the friends I'm used to having that I hear from every Friday around 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. Yo, how's the club looking? What's up, bro? Now, I got all these brothers and cousins Friday through Sunday. You know what I mean? But nobody's checking on when my course drops.
Yeah.
It's your circle. Your circle is massively impactful.
When it comes to assessing your circle, do you think that step one is to kind of, so I have my thoughts. I want to hear your thoughts though for the people's. When it comes to getting yourself in a better position, do you think the first step before you can address getting around a good circle is kind of pulling yourself back and to kind of figure out where you are, what's going on, taking those things, if you got a journaling things out. Why is this way? Why am I doing this? Why? Because what do I want? What do I desire? Because I think if you try to jump from one to the other, it's not going to be helpful. But the other thing too, and there's a common misconception, is that, oh, well, if I have friends that, oh, we're talking about, investing and all this stuff, we can't have fun. Like that's completely wrong. Like at my house, we'll go from listening to ESTG to sitting here with a whiteboard talking about how we're gonna build this business up to X amount of dollars within a year. And it's like, that's the true power of a friendship. You can discuss the things that are bothering you. You can talk about how you want to grow, because everyone's going to hold you accountable. You're going to have the support. That, oh, I have this course coming out and I'm doing this and I don't know what's going on. And they're about, okay, cool. Well, what do we need to do? All right, this is a date. I'm gonna make sure you're getting that done. How can I help? And it's like, for some reason, there's this negative depiction of positive friend groups, to where like everyone's nerds sitting around and it's like, oh man, like I'm only up 8% on my investments this year, like what else? And now you're just sitting around just staring at each other, when it's not the case. Like
right.
The most effective friend group is one that you can flow between different topics. And then we'll sit, my friend, we have book clubs. Like we'll sit down, we'll break a book down, we'll come back, we'll talk about it, and then we'll do all these other things. We party, we everything. But I know we can do this because we all know that our number one priority is continued growth financially, growth mentally, growth spiritually, growth with relationships. All of these things are the number one priority. So none of us are going to put each other in a situation that takes away from the first priority, which is to grow, to be able to protect and provide as men, to be able to provide a solid, safe place for people to go. Sorry, I went on a tangent. I want to hit that real quick before I forgot. But
I love it. I loved it.
How do you?
And at least it's not just me this time.
Oh yeah, no. But how important do you think it is for someone to sit back and take that alone time to themselves and separate themselves from the group that may not necessarily be the group that they need to move themselves forward in life?
It's paramount. It is paramount. And this is coming from somebody that, and notice, I had one foot in one group and one foot in the wrong group at the same time, trying to do a balancing act,
Ooh, talk about that. Let's talk about that.
Whew, man. I got one, I had one circle pulling me one direction, but I knew I belonged over here in this direction. And at the end of the day, who I was that day, not, it's not fake. I'm a little bit of everything, but who I was that day, what hat I had to wear that day, depending on who I'm around at that moment, and it brought out certain things. And the thing is, you need to be very aware of how certain people make you. What version of yourself do certain people bring out of you? Do they bring out your intellectual talent? Do they bring out the criminal in you? That lives deep down inside? Do they bring out the creative person into you? Do they bring out the angry in you? Do you guys end up beating people up every time you hang around them? Do you end up in a fight every time they're around? Do they make you sad because they're always so negative? Do they encourage your dreams, or are they sucking your dreams dry under the guise of, man, I'm just looking out for you, just trying to keep it 100 and all this nonsense? Like,
yeah.
Or are they really just really speaking negative about every single thing you do, or every single thing you want to do? People, your closest friends, if they're the wrong ones, will suck the dreams right out of you. But at the end of the day, you don't see it coming because they love you. They really do love you. They could be your mom. Don't underestimate that. Your parents may have only got but so far. And now, because you're taking that guts, that bravery to step out there and try something, whether you want to be a TikTok star, whatever you want to do, your parents don't get that. So they might be like, why aren't you going to college?
Yeah, this is ridiculous.
This is crazy. And and you're never going to look at it like, oh, my mom's a hater. You're not going to say that, because your
Yeah.
mom's not a hater. She's trying to help you, but she doesn't get it. But that doesn't mean that maybe you need to not talk about that subject with her. At some point, you might need to not talk about that with her, because she don't get it. You might just got to show her, because at the end, they're going to be proud of you regardless. You know what I'm saying? So, that's another, like, your circle is your circle. I don't care if it's your mom, your sister, your cousins, friends, people you work with. Your circle is your circle. But to answer the original question, your self-awareness got to be right first. You have to step back, take some time alone, not be afraid to be alone. That, I could go on and on about that alone, but don't be scared to be by yourself. Enjoy your own company. Take yourself on a date. Go get dinner by yourself. Go to the movies by yourself. Sit in the house by yourself. Meditate, journal, get to know you again. That way you figure out what kind of circle I need to be around.
Yeah, that it's like the awakening, the awakening of oneself is critical. But in order to do that, you have to allow that peace and quiet to get in there. You're never going to allow yourself the ability to be able to figure out where you are and where you need to go if you don't give yourself that quiet place to really dive into who you are. Like, you can't be worried about what so and so did last night and who did what with where and when they went and why they did. That has nothing to do with you. Like, too many times we're so concerned with that when there's a million problems right here and under this roof that we need to take care of. Why are you worried about what they doing? Like, and you got to sit down back and prioritize, because you have to. I'm a firm believer that you have to be your own biggest advocate, and that can be showing someone how to do that. Like, for me, so one of my favorite poems is called Sermons We Seek. And it talks about, I'd rather see a sermon than hear one any day. Like, if you don't tell me to do it, let me see you do it. And so that's how I like to be. Like, people are going to see. There's plenty of people out here who have seen me do the things that I talk about, and they're like, oh, it wasn't half of them. They don't like being around me because of the things I said. They like it because, oh, he actually stepped in the way that he talks about. And they're like, wow, I can do that too, right? And but it can be on such a bigger level, right? Like, going and partying in clubs, it isn't bad, but it can be if you with the wrong people. Like, we talk about all the time. Like, I know you in Wilmington, you said there's this one place, like the bar, right? And it's, oh, cool, I'm willing to go there. Why? Not because I necessarily just want to be in the club, but because there's opportunity to meet people who you can network with and build with, and you might run into shake some hands with somebody that can really take you somewhere you need to go. And like, why would I want to go to a place where it's nothing but nonsense when I can go to a place like that and come out of there? Yeah, I might have been in there, maybe I might have spent some money on a drink to have a conversation with somebody, but it is very different than going and, because I want to look cool in front of everybody, I just went and bought 2 bottles and a table in a spot that I don't even care about, around people that I don't care about. It makes no sense.
Value.
Like, it's the people,
that's
not the place.
That's value to somebody.
So that's difficult. And so being a parent, which I'm not a parent, and I don't have to, God willing, one day I will. But that I know for those of you and the listeners and who do have children, that also changes things financially. Because for me, a lot of my stuff is planned financially for myself, but I am building and planning and structuring things for when that day does come. I'm not reactive. I'm being proactive right now so that I'm ready for it. What are some things that you think would help, whether it's a young parent, somebody like me who may not have them yet, when it comes to planning for things financially when you do have children? Because things change. Like, I tell people, because my mom, she always be asking about grandkids and stuff every now and then. I'm like, Mom, leave me alone. But typically once a month, and it's kind of funny, but once a month I'll typically just walk down like the baby aisle or whatever store I'm in just to see how expensive stuff is. And oh my God, like diapers and stuff, bro. It's crazy how expensive that stuff is. Formula. Oh, and I'm like, oh my God, that's a whole that changes the game real quick. All of that extra cash flow you had at one point, that's going to be rededicated to that real quick because the baby clearly takes priority. So how do you recommend someone like still wants to grow but maybe also wants to start a family? Like how do you balance that?
Um, balancing the are you just to clarify the question, are you asking how to balance the balance between the time you're
So
spending with your
no, balancing the money that so like for me, right? Like I have a specific amount of money maybe that I put towards growth in each month, like monetarily, because I don't have to spend that money on anything else. But now, when you have a child, clearly part of that money is now going to be rededicated to making sure they have what
okay
they need. So
balancing the finances.
how do you balance the finances between still continuing to try to push the vision forward, but also making sure that you're taking care of things at home?
Very, very accurately. That's how you balance it. You have to like there is no room to play around anymore.
Mm,
When like you can't be close to the edge
mm,
ever. You can't be close to the edge. You have to be prepared because kids, you could walk up the baby aisle as many times as you want and tally it all up. You will never experience how expensive kids are
yeah.
till you have them. So it's good to do what you're doing and do that math. Go ahead and like times it by 4 because it just
Sheesh.
it just evaporates. The money just
Mm,
evaporates. And especially if you're somebody like me and my kids, my kids' moms, they laugh at me because they're like, you're such a pushover. You're right. I am. I'm a strict parent and I'm going to keep my kids out of harm's way, but I'm going to make sure that they live a good life that they
mm,
deserve. I ask one thing of them. You guys give me your best efforts
mm.
and stay out of trouble and I'll give you anything. Pretty much anything within reason. So if you're like me, it gets very expensive. I
Mm.
mean like real expensive. And you just got to you got to tighten your belt, honestly. And it's that little stuff that we talked about at the beginning of this conversation, those little subscriptions,
Mhm.
those little amounts, all of that stuff, those little amounts are what you're gonna want when your kids start getting real costly
Mm,
out of nowhere. And God forbid something tragic happens that you
mhm,
have to come out of pocket for, you know. You have to be
mm.
it's preparation. Preparation is everything. I mean, I just shared with you recently what I did with
Yeah.
a couple moves.
Mhm.
My kids, I can literally say that as of last week, every last one of my kids has more money in their bank accounts than most grown people I know.
Mm,
And they can't touch it till they're 18 at all. But when I tell you they are good, like they're super good. They're good to the point where I almost died in November, literally. Almost died. The surgeon looked at me and said, "You might not make it off the table after the
mm,
surgery." And I I expected to be so paranoid. I
mhm,
expected to feel so like, oh my God. And I was strangely very calm.
mm,
The first thing I thought of is everything I've done financially.
mhm.
Literally. I'm like, okay, that's straight. That's taken care of. That's good. Like the worst thing you want is for you to die and your kids look in your account and they're like, what was dad doing? Like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
What is this? What is this? You know? And
That's
I
real.
know people that their parents have passed away and the kid can't even mourn them because they're kind of mad at their dead dad
Yeah. For not
at
taking
what
care of
they
business.
did not do.
Mm-hmm.
So on the way back to getting rolled into what do you call it, anesthesia, wherever they put you to sleep, I was
Yeah.
calm. I was calm. And I was like, they're good. Everything's good. I handled that. That's straight. They're good over there. The moms are good. Like I was cool.
Yeah.
And I promise you that is a priceless feeling.
Mm.
You want that. You want that feeling. And I didn't even expect to have that feeling actually. But you want that feeling. So how do you balance it? Prepare.
Mm.
At all times. Prepare. Before you have kids, prepare. After you have kids, every day, prepare. Be ready at all times. Don't ever, you can't afford to live close to the edge when people are counting on you that cannot fend for themselves and they're relying on just you.
Yeah. Yeah. So with would you say that during that time your focus monetarily goes more towards addressing needs and less towards wants, right? Because I'm assuming like when it's just you can start paying for wants, but it's, I guess when you start having to, like, now those I guess it's two options. You either find ways to make more money to continue to have what you want, or all the wants, you start cutting away wants to provide the needs for the children as well as yourself, because at the end, but I guess that's why it's so important to start getting structured, or to structure yourself financially, to sit down and figure out, all right, what are my bills, which ones are wants, which ones are needs, right? Which ones can I live without, which ones can I live without? Oh, well, I'm paying, this yearly, there's monthly membership to this place, but I can do the same thing at home if necessary. Right? Like, all right, well, maybe I need to cut that. But you already have those things identified. I think that's part of the problem is there's no organizational structure to people's personal finances. So they don't even know what category things fall in for themselves. Like, hey, I have all these expenses, but realistically, what is this? Do I need this or do I want it? Really sitting down and having that realistic conversation with yourself. And if you can't, count on yourself to be objective of the situation, then finding someone you trust to sit down with you and be like, hey, look, here's my expenses. Here's how I broke them down. I feel like I need all of these things. What do you think? And it's like, well, you don't really need stars. You don't really need Netflix, right? You don't need a lot of these things that are there. Like right now, you're driving a vehicle with a $900 payment. Like, I get it. It might make you feel good. You need a new car, like all of these different things. And it's like, but the car makes me feel good. When it doesn't matter. First off, even without the kids, I think that's a terrible decision. Like, that money could be going somewhere else. But um, it's one of the things I talk with all the time. Actually, today at the board, I was just talking to two people in the meeting I was at today at the training, and I was telling them, because they were we were talking about some different things, and I was like, how are you structured? And you're like, I never really had to worry about it before, and like now they're feeling uneasy, a lot of anxiety, because their lifestyle situations have changed, which has caused them to where once they kind of got to be lackadaisical, now life got real fast, and it's like, dang, I should have been paying attention to this, and it's like, yeah, but we here now, so what are we going to do? We're either going to think about
Right.
what you should have did, or are you going to do what you need to do now? Which, how have you seen that with people, like even yourself? Well, you about to say something. What you about to say?
Oh no,
Oh,
I was gonna answer your question about
go ahead.
the wants and needs with the kids. Just real basically, you do have to separate that
Mm,
wants and needs. With kids, it's a little bit more, it's a little harder to determine which is which. It's just a little
mm,
harder because kids, their wants, some of them are needs
mm.
because you want your kids happy.
Yeah,
You don't want miserable kids.
entertained.
We have no problem being grown men and putting our nose to the ground and disciplining and not having no fun for the
Mm-hmm.
next 3 months to get done what we need to get done. And then we'll have
Absolutely.
a blast after that. But
Yeah.
we're grown men. That's different.
Mm-hmm.
Kids, they need fun. So it's a little, it is a balancing act. So the way I make it pretty, it's easy in my house because I teach my kids gratitude. Like I hammer it, gratitude, gratitude, gratitude. We're going to be grateful for this. So when I do say, no, we're not going to do this, we're going to do that. You know, if my daughter wants Bojangles, which she loves Bojangles,
Blueberry
I'm
biscuit.
gonna. She likes the 3-piece snack pack, which it's not even that. It's by the time it's said and done, it's like $8, right? But I've taught her gratitude for the Tyson's bag of Southern style tenders, I think they're called. Listen, these things slap. You understand
Air
what I'm saying?
fryer?
Yes, or in the oven. Man, them things are good. So I've taught her gratitude. So okay, today we're not going to go to Bojangles. We're going to go to Food Line and we're going to get this bag, the family size. And I show her the gratitude. I show her to be grateful for. One, we still have food. Two, I'm showing her the value of we don't have to leave every day to go to Bojangles. You can get the taste of Bojangles anytime you want and eat as many of these tenders as you want.
Yeah.
Bojangles snack pack has whole bag. There's 20 in here. How many you want? However many, you can eat
That's
the whole
real
bag.
though.
I don't care. Eat the whole bag. But now we're grateful. So like I didn't tell you no. I'm showing you how to be grateful for we have this many. So now I can use Bojangles as a treat instead of a need. So now it's like, oh, look at this report card. You know what? Let's go to Bojangles. Now it's my idea.
Yeah.
And now I've just rewarded you instead. So now, you know what I mean? That's kind of how I don't know if that answered the question, but
no,
that's how
that's dope though. Like I'm adding that to my toolbox. I like that. Cause it's funny you say it, we think a lot alike. So at one point, so when COVID first hit, you know, everything's kind of in shambles, everything's closed, you can't go into places. Like I was on ordering food heavy, right? It just was the nature of the beast. But after a while, you know, sitting back, you know, all right, let's just see where I'm at right now. Like, what's going on here? Like, I got to make a change. Like right now, this ain't me. So what I did was I took note of all the places I normally ordered from. And I was like, okay, well, what do I normally get from these places? And I did kind of the same thing, like Checkers. Okay, the chicken sandwich, you get the chicken patties, right? I like you know, burgers from certain places. Cool. Well, I'm gonna get my own burger stuff. And what happened was, you know, say I like Chick-fil-A. Well, in Sam's Club, they sell the big thing of nuggets that taste just like it, and they have the waffle fries, all these. So now if I want Chick-fil-A, instead of going to DoorDash, I go to the freezer, open up the, you know, the air fryer, and boom, I pop it in there. I got Chick-fil-A in 15 minutes. And I that's a lot of meals that I'm getting out of that, as opposed to, once again, where Chick-fil-A, you know, and Chick-fil-A, just so you know, I got beef with you because I don't like how y'all piecemeal your meals together. I can't order a full meal on DoorDash, so I refuse to order from you on DoorDash, just so you know that. But
I refuse to DoorDash.
Nah, in fact, it's on, like, so I deleted the app and everything. It's done. Like it just because, but what I realized was, wow, like I'm getting the same. I'm scratching the itch, right? Especially because they sell the Chick-fil-A sauces in the store now. So I get the whole Chick-fil-A taste, and but it's just the creativity and the want to. I get, you know, if I want to make a Checkers chicken sandwich, I get a chicken sandwich patty, you know, I put the shredded lettuce on there, everything just like they do. And next thing you know, boom, I had a chicken sandwich. And it's like, oh, wow, this works. So now I didn't, and I think this is an important point. So, because I think this is one of the things that causes people to have issues with getting on the right side of their finances. They feel like they just have to cut things, but it just causes, you need to just be more creative about how you address them. And I think that's a great example, is like, okay, you might actually really like Chick-fil-A. Well, cool. What, you don't have to not have Chick-fil-A, right? Like, you just need to find a different way to consume Chick-fil-A, which is, all right, get the same ingredients. Boom, you get you a couple of sauces and you good. You know, like now If the fry is soggy, you got yourself to blame. If the chicken patty ain't hot enough, you got yourself to blame. But if you want more than one serving, you can also do that. And like now,
That's the
you
best
buy,
part.
and that's one of the best parts is, you spend $15 on one meal, $15, you got, especially with that, because actually the bag of nuggets, and they got a lot of nuggets in there. So you probably get about 6 to 8 meals out of that. So what are we talking about? Like now you've saved yourself a ton of money just through delivery fees, through all these other things, but it's just through being creative. So anyone here, I try to emphasize, I don't want personal finance to feel like something that's restrictive and telling you what you can't do. Like even budgeting, a budget is telling me what I can't do. No, that's inaccurate. All the budget is, money is your resource, and the budget is allowing you to see all of your resource, which is money, and how you are obligating it to different things so that you can make sure at the end of the day that money that you spent your valuable time for to earn is going where you need it to go and not where you didn't expect it to go. So it's just helping you put things where it needs to go. It's not telling you what you can't do. But I mean, if you say, hey, I only want to spend $200 a month on eating out, well, the budget's going to make sure that you only do that so that you have the rest of that money left over to put into investments, into growth, to buy your baby some new clothes, to fix something in the house, to put a new tire on your car. Like I want people to stop seeing it as such a restriction and just be like, yo, just be creative. Like, because these places ain't worried about you. They're not going to complain if they don't get your money. I mean, they might, but who cares, right? Because they're not going to come and say, oh, you know what? You went into debt eating here. Let me go ahead and pay that off for you. Nah, they're going to be like, well, you should have had some more discipline.
Run it.
Yeah. Like if you come to swipe your card, I'm going to take the money again. Like they're not going to, they're not worried about what your financial standing and how you're putting yourself in a bad position. So, I want people, instead of seeing managing their finances as a restriction, is like, okay, let's force ourselves to be a little bit more creative. How can we address this problem to get the same effect where I don't feel like I'm missing anything, but also I know that me participating in this thing isn't also putting me into a deeper hole that I'm gonna have to work longer to pull myself out of.
2 points off what you're saying. First of all, you're saying you're dropping bombs, okay? As usual, as always. It's not about how much you're making. It's about how much you're keeping. And that's really the point of everything that most of what we've talked about today, especially with the eating out and all the, the frivolous spending. It's about how much you keep. And real wealthy people, that's what they do. They do not spend they're not out here doing what you think they're doing. And when they are having a good time and letting loose and spending absurd amounts of money at, charities or on a Ferrari or whatever, that's off money that was made off the second point I'm about to make, which is money is not a goal. Money is a tool.
Yes.
It is not a goal. Everybody thinks, and I did this. Oh, I can't wait to make a bunch of money so I can go and, I don't know, do something very dumb, like make it rain. I'm sorry. I'm going to keep going back to that one. All right. Not that we haven't done it, because me and you have done it together. Okay. But don't get it twisted. You're supposed to do things of that nature. You need to do that with money that was made from your assets. Not money that's your spending. Like that's your blow it money. Money that was made off your assets. Not money that's like you're throwing your bill money in the air. That makes no sense.
None.
Money is a tool. When you make money, use that money, and my money's soldiers. I send it out into the world, and I say, go and bring me back more people like you. You know what I mean? I want my money to go out and find more money and bring it back to me, which just goes back to investments and, getting cash flowing assets. Cash flow. That's the biggest lesson I ever learned in my life. Cash flow. You can get
cash flow is king.
Cash flow is king, not cash. Cash flow is king. If you don't have cash flow, you have nothing. There's a reason why people hit the lottery and then they're broke.
70%. 70% of
Because
people who hit the lottery go broke in 5 years.
boom, because they didn't understand cash flow. And it's messed up because it's not their fault, because they probably didn't know any better. But that's what you're here for.
But I would say the other piece to that, especially with people with the lotto and things of that nature, is that it brings up a great point, which is that more money does not solve the problem. The problem is that the reason that 70% of people go broke in 5 years after hitting the lotto, and many of them are getting millions and millions of dollars, is because they have not learned, built, and made the habits that are necessary to manage your money properly a part of their lifestyle before they got that sum of money. So all they did was get more money to do the same things with and put themselves in bigger, worse situations. Because if they were disciplined before, they had their budget, they knew their expenses, they were living below their means, they would have been able to build themselves an empire. The problem is that they were already in a financial bind. They already had terrible financial habits. All the money did was allow them to increase their bad financial habits. Now they can go buy this Lamborghini with this expensive car payment every month. But the reason that they fail is because they don't realize that, once you purchase many of these things, you have to be able to sustain it. That's the key piece that's missing. Is like, you could buy this nice big house and do all these things, but you still have the same job. You still have the same lifestyle. What have you done to change your circumstances to make sure that you can still maintain this money and this lifestyle that you're about to put yourself into by spending up all this money you just earned? You haven't built those skills and disciplines in yourself. You haven't done the work. It's only natural. You haven't learned about you haven't learned how to put your money in smart places. You haven't learned the difference between the asset and the liability, and how to structure yourself financially to make sure that you can make good decisions. And like you said, how to buy assets to generate cash flow. So now you're buying things with your cash flow and not your money that's coming into your pocket every month. Like, these are things that are super important, which leads me to a quote that I actually heard. So money thing, right? So this quote says, saving money is the gap between your ego and your income. And I heard this quote where I was like, I got to write that down, because it's true, right? A person, we have the same job, we earn the same amount of money. I drive a 2011 Dodge Charger, and this person drives a 2023 Lexus. Our lifestyles are very different, but I'm saving, $1,500 more a month than this person, not because I'm doing anything special, but it's because their financial decisions are driven in ego, and mine's driven by something completely different.
Something much bigger, something that has more value for you. And for them, the image is the value. For you, the future and what it looks like for you, what it's going to look like, what you envision, that is value. One day when you have a family and kids, making sure they're straight long after you, making sure you could teach them the right habits, that is value for you. For them, I got a new scat. That's value.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. I'm speaking literal about the scat. I just was talking to somebody 2 days ago, and this dude, I was talking to a chick, and the female, she was dating this guy. The whole time I've known her to deal with him, he was dusty, very, very dusty. And so now he's brand new. And this is what happened. His mom gave him a car. He didn't have to buy the car. So it was a free car. All right. Wrecked the car. Car's paid off, mind you. Wrecks the car. Gets the check for the paid off car. He got paid out. He's stunting on Instagram now, talking about how He was down bad, but now he came up and he's here now. Because here's what he did. He went and bought a scat with the money that he got for the car that he never bought in the first place. He bought a scat and now has a $700 a month car payment. And that's why we're here.
Yeah.
And that's what we're here to talk about. Things like that. Because in his mind, he came up. I see that as, and I'm not judging him, because if he doesn't know any better, I'm not judging him. But if he knows better, I am absolutely judging him.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh my goodness, bro, that is not winning. That is not, nothing about what you just did was winning. You have a $700 a month car payment now. When you got a check for a car that you never bought in the first place. You literally got free money. And now you went and got yourself into debt when you didn't even have debt. Make that make sense. But you know what? 18, 19, maybe even 23-year-old me, I might have done the same thing. And that's why I'm not judging. I might have done the same thing. And so that's what, but like I keep saying, that's what we're here for. That's why we need you. That's why we need people that know better to talk about it. That is why we need to have the conversations. Because if you don't know any better, you'll end up doing something just catastrophic like that. You know, that's oh man, that hurts my stomach to think what he did.
Yeah, it makes my heart hurt a little bit hearing that, just because, you know, you Marine Corps, I remember, you know, I had some Marines. I would, you know, go through like, hey, this Marine's having financial issues. Hey, come on, let's sit down. Let's 16, 17, 18% interest on vehicles, payday loans that they didn't pay back. Now it's at 29.99% interest. And it's just like, yo, like how are these things happening? And it's like, I would teach them and they're like, oh, I didn't know this. Oh, I didn't know this. And they're actually very receptive and they would do what I, for the most part. Now, some of them, they're like, oh, there's a discipline factor that comes in there as well. But
right,
for the most part, even just making someone aware that like, yo, here's why this is bad. It starts to eat where they, and then all of a sudden, you know, it might have took a little while, but hey, sir, is it possible to refinance a car loan? Well, yes, it is. You know, but let's look at these other things. And then now you start slowly peeling the onion back. And it's like, whoa. Why does your credit look like this? Well, let's look at this. Bro, why you got so many missed payments? Like, what are you doing? Oh, you know, I just forget. What do you mean you just forget? You know, and it's just you start tugging the string and, you know, all of a sudden you expect it to pop off, but all of a sudden everything starts unraveling. That's what I tend to see. But it's hard. Like I can't wait to get to the point to where more people are able to hear these conversations, because a lot of times this is just what it takes. Imagine us having this conversation right now, but it's a group of 18-year-old boys in here. They might not have much to contribute, but I guarantee they're gonna be hearing some things. Oh, maybe I shouldn't buy that vehicle. Oh, so I should get the, you know, because one of the problems that I see is that one of the biggest things that keeps us in this rat race, right? Survival mode, which, you know, I got a new book coming out called Escaping Survival Mode. So for those of you want to look at it, it's coming out real soon. So stay tuned for that.
Bomb drop.
But
new book dropping.
The survival mode piece is tied to, you know, decision making, the education, but also I don't blame the young kids, but I do blame the people that lead them. Right? If you're an adult and the direct influence of a young man, young woman, and they're making decisions like that, that's your fault. Yep. You know, especially like, and I had some Maria. I say, yo, who took you to get this car? And a staff sergeant, gunny. Well, they should know better. You know, but it's how how can you expect the younger generation to make the right decisions when the people who are raising them, bringing them up, aren't making the right decisions? Then when the younger ones are like asking questions, they become more aware. Now we make them feel, oh no, what you talking about? No, that's wrong. And then now they're confused because like, whoa, everything is telling me that this is the right way, but you telling me that this doesn't matter. Why are we putting more? Why do we care more about things? Material items that at the end of the day provide zero value. Like one of the biggest things that I love debating with people is like the shoe thing. Right? There's people who like to collect shoes, and I've had it as like there are some people who legitimately collect and they sell them. They have all these things and they have a plan, but there's others that you spent $4,000 on shoes this year when that could have went to pay down half of these debts you have. It's just decision, like you're not, and they're like, oh well, I could sell them. Come on now, like, are you I haven't seen you sell one shoe since I've known you, but all of a sudden when I'm calling you out because I feel like you make it, but now all of a sudden, oh, I could sell them. People sell shoes. Okay, people might sell shoes, but you not those people.
But you don't sell shoes.
Yeah. Like, oh, well, this car is an asset. If I do this, I could put the car on Turo. Yeah, but you don't put your car on Turo. You need this vehicle to go back and forth to work every day. So it's the decision making in the not putting.
I believe that's called it being a wantrepreneur.
A wantrepreneur. But I haven't heard that one. I like that though. A wantrepreneur.
Yeah, it's a wantrepreneur. That's somebody that talks about the right plan, but never executes it. You're a wantrepreneur.
I'm gonna save that one. I'm gonna have to save that one. So what would you say was the biggest thing for you when it came to tightening up on your money? Like, what, I guess one was like, what was the thing that made you be like, you know what, maybe I should take a different look at this and see where I can clean up some things to be able to restructure? And then what has allowed you to sustain that transition?
Okay, two things happened. Two things happened. I'm gonna try to make them as brief as possible. Two things happened. One, I'm not afraid to share that I have PTSD. Bad. I went to Afghanistan in 2003, 2004. I grew up in the hood. I am messed up. Okay. I suffer from anxiety, depression, and I'm bipolar. I've suffered from suicidal ideations, all that stuff. I've dealt with it. I take my medicine every day for depression and anxiety, faithfully. So, backtrack a few years ago. I don't remember exactly what year it was, but it wasn't that long ago. I was in a barbershop. I was cutting hair. I'd stopped DJing. I'd stopped with clubs. And I didn't realize that my identity was tied up in DJ Black to the point where I forgot who Eric even was. Completely forgot. Couldn't remember what I'm even into, what I like, what I want to do, any of that. So I'm cutting hair and I enjoy cutting hair. But I knew that that's not going to get me where I want to see myself, where I want to be. And I went into this depression. I'm talking about deep depression. Every morning I had to wake up and literally give myself a pep talk to get out this bed and go in this barbershop. Every single day. There's certain songs that'll play on the radio now that when I hear them, I got to turn the song off. I'm like, I don't want to hear that song because it takes me back to that time. It was probably a good, strong year of struggling to stay alive every day, mentally, struggling to not end it today. Too much everything, too much drinking, and other things, not drugs or anything like that, but just and I said that I gotta do something to be fulfilled. The
Mm.
crazy part is I was making good money cutting hair. I was making decent money.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing crazy, but like 400 to 500 a day, you know,
It's better
not
than the average
terrible.
person. Yeah.
Yeah, not bad. I was making decent money. Obviously, I still had my VA, my disability. I'm getting that check, you know. So I'm getting that check and I'm making 400 or 500 a day,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like I was cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Still, I know that that's not going to take me where I want to be. So
Mhm.
when people say money doesn't buy happiness, they're not lying. You know what I mean? Because I wasn't balling, but I was definitely not hurting either.
Yeah.
My problem was fulfillment. I was so not fulfilled that I couldn't stand it. And
Mm-hmm.
that was a turning point where I started looking deeper.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what else is out there? What am I supposed to be doing? Because I'm too smart to just be standing here cutting hair until I'm what, 70? I
Yeah.
cannot retire from this.
Yeah.
That was the main thing. I cannot retire from what I'm doing right now. Like, that's not going to, I'm going to have to keep doing this to
Mm-hmm.
make money. And what's going to happen when I no longer can do this? So that was when I started looking at what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? How do I get into this? And I started trying different things. I started educating myself. I started like binging personal development.
Mm.
And real quick, that is what changed the game. It wasn't the things I learned. It wasn't learning how to flip houses. It wasn't I got my life insurance license. It wasn't that. It wasn't any of that. It was this.
Mm.
If your mindset is messed up, it don't matter what skills you got. You're only going to go but so far.
Mm-hmm.
Once I learned personal development, became a personal development junkie,
Mm-hmm.
even to the point where I went on Instagram and unfollowed literally everything. I got an app that unfollowed everybody. So
Mm.
no more Instagram models, no more just frivolous nonsense. And then I refollowed only certain people that I can learn from. So now I've
Mm.
basically curated my news feed to
Mm-hmm.
where, which I still don't take the time to. If I'm on Instagram, it's probably because I'm in the bathroom.
That's fact. I
um,
feel
yeah, like I don't have time to. People are like, did you see what I posted today? I'm like, no, no, of course I didn't.
that.
No, I didn't see that. Or like, oh, you didn't know I got married? I posted it on Instagram. Well, I don't be up there, so I don't know. That's a waste of my
Yeah.
time. That's a distraction.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
Distractions. Oh.
once I curated that and once I eliminated distractions and starved those distractions and started feeding my mindset,
Mm-hmm.
feeding it, that was a turning point, right? That was the first time it turned. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one. The second one's real quick. The second one was I flipped a property. I made somewhere in the ballpark of 40 grand in like a month.
Mm-hmm.
And I think 2 or 3 months later, it was gone.
Mm.
All of it. And I didn't even buy anything crazy.
That's how it be
Remember in the
though.
beginning,
That's how it.
of this episode, that's what I
Yeah.
said. I said, we're like, what, like, where did it go?
Yeah.
That was the second turning point. And I said, I ain't never doing that again,
Yeah.
ever. And I'm going to figure out what happened. And I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
figure out what my habits are. And I did. And I'm still figuring it out. But that was my moment that was my come to Jesus moment.
Yeah.
Those two things.
You said something at the end of that sentence that I like is that you're still figuring it out, and I think that's important for people to understand is that this is a lifelong journey. Like you don't just there's no cookie cutter answer. Like we already identified. Like for instance, me, I'm single. That I'm going to have to restructure and replan and refigure things out when I have a family. Right?
Yeah.
As you grow and continue to do different things in life, you're gonna have to start restructuring and doing things. So there is no like, oh, I've done this, let me stamp it, and I ain't gotta ever look at it again. No, it's a constant process. But when you make your financial pick, like when you make taking care of your finances a part of your lifestyle, because most people see it as something that's extra to do. Like, oh, I got to sit down and do my budget and manage my money. It was like, well, bro, you got 40 hours in that spot where you went to go earn it. Like, I would think you want to protect it, but as you continue to grow, like one of the first things I tell a client is, it takes 90 days to even really get your budget situated, and then each month you have to address your budget as brand new, because there's certain month. Oh, November. Oh, well, that's Thanksgiving. You probably got travel things, and that's more expenses. You need to account for it. December, Christmas, what month is such and such birthday? Maybe your girl or your boyfriend's birthday is this month. Are you going to have to spend more? So it's a constant piece. But when you're in tune and it's just a part of your daily lifestyle, like I touch my budget every day and people, oh, how you, I don't see it as something that I have to. It's just a part of my normal routine. Like, I don't feel right if I don't touch if I spent money today and I didn't account for it in the budget, there's a problem. And like, I can't physically sleep until I know that, all right, cool, where am I at versus where this is. And that didn't just happen overnight. I had to build that up over time. But through doing that, now I'm very cognizant. I can go in the store and be like, all right, well, this month I said I only wanted to spend $300 on groceries. I know when I looked at my budget last night, I was at 180. So that means I got 120. So I need to buy exactly what I need. Like, and it's just that. And most people go, oh, well, you got more money. It's not about having, could I spend more? Yes. But it's more about me being disciplined to the plan, because now clearly I had something planned for all this money that I didn't want to spend to put it towards something that's going to grow. Why would I want to put myself in a position not to hit that goal because I can't be disciplined in a grocery store or at a restaurant? No.
You made two monstrous points. One we already touched on, your identity. Mm-hmm. You have defined yourself even before you had it all figured out, even when you were still learning it, and we're still learning it. Like you said, you have identified yourself as, I am a financially disciplined person.
Yes.
And therefore you live your life like that. In all the time. There's no exceptions, right? That's what makes you move the way you move. You build there's something called a reticular activator. It's in your brain. And when you train it, you start seeing what you want to see. Like if I identify myself as a real estate investor, my brain will now start to see opportunities in that. If you drive a Charger, before you drove a Charger, you notice other Chargers. But now that you own that car, you see them way more.
Everywhere.
And you see red ones.
The same one. I'm like, yo, is that my car?
That's because your reticular activator sees it. That's a real thing. So if you train, you have control over that. You can train your reticular activator to see what you need it to see, to look for opportunities. If you train your reticular activator that you are somebody that saves money, that's financially disciplined, your brain will start looking for ways to save. Guaranteed. I bet you do it all the time. You're like, oh, wait, that's okay. So that's a pack of chicken, I'm good for the next. It doesn't take you long to calculate it. You're like, oh, that's a week's worth of food right there. Oh, like, beef is on sale. Boom,
Like I figured out that chicken legs are cheaper than wings right now. So everything has been leg here. It just is what it is.
Legs.
Wings used to be like $11 a pack. Now it's $22. I guess it's legs. Hey, it is what it is.
It's legs. And you can afford to buy whichever ones you want, but you are a financially disciplined person. So that is your identity. That's point one that you made, right? Point two is the fact of you're single now, but when you are not, you're going to have to adjust the game plan. That is major. That is major because going back to when I ran through 40 in 2-3 months, turns out it wasn't me. It wasn't even me. It wasn't, put it this way, it was me, but it wasn't my habits that did it. I allowed someone else's habits to influence my habits. But had I been firm on my identity on, no, this is what I do and this is how I do things, I wouldn't have even done it. But it was someone else that when they said, hey, let's get Red Lobster, DoorDash it. hey, let's get
We
Olive
got
Garden.
it.
Let's door
It's
dash
cool.
it.
We got it.
Right. Let's drive them. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, eating out here, there. Let's get these extra. Oh my God. That's what happened. That's what actually happened. That's the real story.
That.
But guess what? It's my fault. It's 100% my fault. I'm not blaming that person.
Yeah.
They actually don't know any better.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't know any better. So if you are somebody that, you know, you have a partner, you're married, you have a girlfriend, or as you choose that person, to make sure y'all on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're not, that doesn't mean they don't fit, but make sure they're teachable
Yeah.
to get on the same page. Not everybody has to have it together, but somebody must be teachable.
Mm-hmm.
Because had I been firmer on my identity and had I been teaching the other person, that would have never happened.
Mm. Yeah. But you know, that I feel like that's a story for a lot of people. That's your story right there. I guarantee it's gonna be a lot of people listening to this like, dang, bro, that's me too. That's me too, you know. But it's, you got to have a foundation to stand and hunker down on in order to do it. It's hard to do that if you haven't taken the time prior to build that foundation, like you said, you know, figuring out who you are, what do you want to do, what's the plan, what's the goals, like, all right, how much money do you have coming every month, what's going to what, how's this going to be structured, what are things, what are non-negotiables, you know, like, why, you know. And it's like, if you haven't done that, it's easy to be okay, cool, whatever. And the next thing you know, 3 months later, you're like, whoa, how do we get here?
And by then it's too late.
It's too
It's
late.
already happened.
Yeah, you can't go back. You can't go back to all those places. The money, hey, I didn't mean to spend money here. Can I get that back? They gonna be like, nah, bro, you good. Like, you good.
Hey, I don't even really like these shoes that much.
You know, sorry for you. You know, but I'm excited. I'm really excited for this year. I definitely think, you know, great things are gonna come. You know, I've personally seen a lot more people reaching out to me, trying to get right. You know, they're starting to hear the conversation. There's people, somebody told me they actually gifted my first book, The Inner Smoker Mindset. They, like, people are starting to gift this book to people in their family. And I'm like, what? Like, and they're like, nah, man, for real. Like, this is dope. Cause like we said earlier, mindset is important. And I know I always talk about it on all my stuff, is how even in the shows, like, it doesn't matter what the numbers on the spreadsheets and the paperwork says if your mindset isn't ready to support what you put down there. You have to be able, in a position to support the plan. Otherwise, you just spent time putting stuff on paper.
Yep.
So, you know, the mindset, what your habits, your, who you're with, you know, are you prideful? You know, are you willing to ask for help? All of those things tie together to make the plan work. Like, that's the important part. I could put numbers on the paper for you. You could put your own numbers on the paper all day long. But if I say, hey, you only need to spend, you know, $100 going out this month, but you don't have the discipline, you still going out 4 times a week, well, you're probably gonna blow that by Tuesday. You know, like, it's hard to do without addressing the things within, which is why we spoke about earlier. It's important to remove yourself from the situation and really take the time to figure out what you have going on, what you want, how you want to operate, what are the things that are holding you back. Are you part of the thing that's holding you back? Is it people that's holding you back? Are you happy with what you want to do? Where do you want to go? Have you thought about where you want to be in 5 years? You know, people would say like, oh, I want to be here, I want to do this. But when you say, okay, let's look at the time and let's look at how you spent the first 6 months of 2023, they haven't done one action that would move them towards being in that place in the next 5 years. You know, so all of these things are so important, but there's no importance to it. The importance goes to, like you were talking about, going to see Big Boogie, to drive around, you know, stunting in a car to pull up, you know, for people to look at you. When in reality, they don't care. Everybody got their own problem. I don't care what car you drive. I'm not driving it. You know, I don't.
Right.
You know, and then if you sit down and do the research, I remember one of the biggest things that caught my, this was years ago. I was watching a documentary, and it was about Warren Buffett. And you know, we know how much money he has. So I'm sitting there and I'm watching, And one of the things that caught my eye over everything else, bro, he drives what like a old car. I can't even remember what kind it was. I just know it was old. It wasn't nothing fancy. And I was like, bro, this dude has like billions of dollars. And he's driving that moment. I think I was in college when I saw it. I said, okay, he's on to something here. So if he's driving an old car, I'm about to be a second lieutenant in the Marine Corps. I have no reason to be driving some brand new car. Even now, I don't have Warren Buffett money. Why am I out here trying to buy a Bentley? You know what I'm saying? Now, granted, if you come into a situation where, you know, like police, I know some people, for instance, who got, I had a neighbor growing up. He got a Maserati off a police auction for the cheap. Cool. Things like that happen and you might get a win, but I'm not going to a Maserati dealership and getting that payment. Nah, I'm a Ruby out there. Hey, until she decides she want to kick over and just stop running, I'm gonna drive it. And people, it's funny because people used to make, oh, bro, you still driving the same car? You still driving the same car? And like now they're like, man, you were smart, bro. I wish I would have just did that. Like
I
you,
wish I would have did
I
that.
know. You know, like it's a 2011 and ain't nothing wrong with it. I take care of it. I keep up on my maintenance. As soon as like I started studying and realized that a car depreciates in value, bro, what are we talking about? I'd rather put that money into something that's going to grow in value. Why am I buying something that's going to be half the value or less in a couple years? Nah, bro, I can't do it. Can't do it.
One of the biggest liabilities known to man is a vehicle. Straight liability.
Shout out to Warren Buffett. That one thing taught me a lot. So if you, I don't know if you ever hear this or see this, but if you do, thanks.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate it. But
you made, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You good.
You as always, you made some big points, and I want to touch on them. One, you when you first step out and understand your finances and understand that you have to pay attention to them, there's going to be a lot of things that just don't fit anymore. And that's why what you said about like stepping back and figuring out who you are. Once you lock that in and figure out what fits in the framework of that and what doesn't, you're not going to mesh well with certain people. You're not going to see things differently. You're going to notice that your conversation isn't the same. And it's just not, it's just not, it's not gonna work well together. Also like the Maserati thing, I got one. Did not get it from the dealership. Absolutely not. Found it, I wouldn't say on the cheap, but it wasn't belligerent.
Yeah.
Bought it cash, and then all the things I've done to it, the same wheels on it, I painted them.
Yeah, that his whip is fire, by the way. It looks very good. We just actually, it's funny, on the way to shoot the show, we passed each other at the light and like was holding up traffic talking.
I painted them wheels. And the crazy part is I painted them wheels because I wanted to start a little wheel painting business.
I remember that.
I went to Napa, got the paint I wanted for $40. $40. And I got brand new rims, basically. $40. Brand new custom color. Can't argue with that. And now I got people asking me, man, who did your wheels? Me. Well, can you do my wheels? Absolutely. 1,000.
Yeah.
Because now I'm still cheaper than you buying brand new rims.
And you got a skill out of it.
Correct.
And that's another big thing that we haven't really touched on it much today, but finding valuable skills. We talk about value. Well, in order to have value, you need to make yourself valuable. So what skills do you have? Like that wheel painting, well, people want that. Cool. Here you go. But now you've turned that once again, because the car itself, cool, but now that's your work, right? That now it's getting you business because you learned a skill that you applied on the vehicle that you can use other people, and it's like, how many people are spending time? Just imagine, I tell people sometimes, like, hey, look, imagine if you took half of the time that you spend out partying and doing all this stuff and studied a skill. Just one thing, just study something that you could apply and eventually like I'm not saying you got started big, but if you wanted to like make some extra cash, like you could, it would have happened is you start learning, oh, well, what about this? Or what about this? And now you say, whoa, now I really don't want to go out today. Like I need to get through this book because there's something in here I need to learn. Oh, I got to finish this course because if I finish this course, I can apply this, which can literally change the trajectory of my life, which is currently going in a direction I don't want. You know,
Yep.
and a lot of people have very limited time. They're working, multiple jobs. They might have children too. Like so, it's they're looking for that escape. But a lot of times, if you just look at the problem a little differently, instead of making the escape the physical getting away, why don't we look at the escape as I'm going to create the key for myself to actually be able to escape the situation. The key comes from the knowledge and skills that you gain in order to put you in a different scenario, a different place.
But it goes back to what you said earlier. Everything that we just talked about probably in the last 15 minutes. If you're watching this, run it back. The last 15 minutes, we've been talking about a plan. If you do not have a plan, it doesn't matter. When I got the car, I had a plan for the car. I'm going to advertise my real estate stuff on my car because where we live, there's not a lot of that car. So I'm going to go buy that car for cheaper than you would think. I'm going to advertise it on the side. I'm going to pull up to the car wash where I know people are into cars. I'm going to wash my car. People are going to ask me what I do because they think I sell drugs. Okay. So they're going to ask me what I do. When I speak and I know that I'm more eloquent than you would have expected, I'm going to tell you what I do. And now I just gained a student. Remember I told you I said, hey, I just knocked out a couple courses today at random. I let my car be a billboard, right? The wheels, I painted them. I had a plan. I said, I'm going to paint these myself, and then I'm going to charge people to paint theirs for cheaper than it would cost them to get brand new rims. But I had a plan. At the end of the day, if you don't have a plan, it's just a waste of time. You could, like you said you write down a plan for your Marines. If they don't execute it, what's the matter? What does it matter? You could have all these goals on who you want to be, how you going to get there. I want to go to Jamaica next year. Well, how am I going to get there? If you want to drive to, an hour away to a restaurant, but you don't know how to get there, what time are you leaving? Do you have the money for the gas? Do you have a vehicle at all? What time do they serve brunch? What time is lunch started? What time is breakfast over? Whatever the case may be, you have to have a plan. A goal without a plan is just a dream.
That's facts. That's facts. And a plan is important. So, and don't think you got to get the plan right at the first, but having a framework, if you have a plan, a general plan, now you can go to someone that you can trust, and you might not have them in your circle. You might be able to, when you're doing what you need to do, you're going to be surprised at how willing people are going to be to help you. The issue comes or arises when, one, you might be asking for help in the wrong place. Most people I see are asking the people who are around them, not doing any of the stuff they want to do, for their opinion or their guidance on how to get something done that they've never done. That's the first mistake. Secondly is once you start, oh, excuse me. Oh man. Once you start getting to the point, like when you finding people, start looking, most people scroll through social media, TikTok, all these things, and it's like, oh, even within the areas, there's professional, it's not as big in Jacksonville, right? But if you just to start, hey, let me see what type of places are here where these people could give me some guidance. Let me get around some better people. And then, hey, all it takes is one question. Like there's been plenty of times we've been somewhere and someone's like, hey, does anyone, I don't really know what to do with my credit. And it's like, oh, come on, we'll talk. And they're like, really? Yeah. And they're like, wow, normally people be like, oh no, I was like, well, you're in a different place with different people now. Like, what have you done? oh, and they show, oh, this is what I've done so far. Oh, I'm willing to help. I'm not gonna do it for you, but if you started and you're looking for some guidance, absolutely, let's get to it. But you got to start to work on your own. I'm not. I got to take care of myself. I ain't babysitting you. You're not my child. You know, like you got to do the work for someone else to buy into the fact that you believe you can do better.
Absolutely. Put your own mask on first.
Yeah, yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like that's my thing right there. The airports. If it's one thing they got right, is that put your mask on first so you could breathe and then help other people. So, yeah, it's been a good conversation today. I don't even know how long we've been on, but before we get off of here, is there anything else you would like to leave the listeners with?
Yeah, I do. Do not be too proud to learn about subjects that you don't know enough about. That's it. That's my whole thing. That's my only gem that I'm going to leave. And it's not nothing that you don't know already. Don't be too proud. Don't be too proud, and don't be embarrassed because you don't know. Like, you don't know. So what? That's fine. That is not the crime. The crime is in deciding to be blinded to it and acting like you do know, or continuing to be embarrassed. You start the conversation, digest more content like this, and less of whether Tory Lanez actually shot Meg Thee Stallion in the foot or not.
Now that's
Because
real.
that's not gonna pay that light bill, you know? Like it's irrelevant. So turn those distractions down and digest more content like this. And I'm saying that to my fellow Black people. Honestly, because that is, that we're at a disadvantage. You know that we're born in a disadvantage. I don't care what nobody says. We're born at a disadvantage. Lack of information, lack of education, of things of this nature. And that's not to say we're the only ones that don't have access, but I can relate to us. And I know I didn't grow up learning this stuff in school that I know now. And Lord willing, people like you will be inside these schools teaching this stuff.
Because we're working right now.
Because look, trigonometry didn't do nothing for me, but this does. You know what I'm saying? So that's it. Don't be embarrassed and don't be too proud to learn what you need to learn.
So where can they find your course? Tell them about your course, what it is, and then where they can find it at. I'll put all your course info in the show description as well, so that they can go to the links and get it. But I definitely want you to tell people where they can find your course at.
All right, so my course, if you just go to my Instagram, Black Buys Houses, which is BLAQ Buys Houses, so BLAQ BUYS Houses. That's on IG. And in my bio is the link. It's the Unprofessional Professional, which is somewhere on my head. I don't know. And my real estate course is on there. It is not free, but it is cheap. I purposely, I almost did it free, not gonna lie. But I feel like if you put skin in the game, you'll take it more seriously. It's like working out in your house versus having a gym membership. So the link is in the bio. I literally priced it cheaper than a pair of Jordans on purpose. So if you're serious, there's really no excuse. And the whole premise of my course is you do not, I repeat, you do not have to be rich to get started in real estate. So I teach you how to invest in real estate and learn the ropes for like, you might spend $100 a month, maybe. And that's what my course teaches. The course also comes with me as a coach. I walk you through your deals. And to me, that's the most important thing, having a mentor, somebody that's walked that road before. If I knew 10 years ago what I know now, oh boy, where would I be? And even considering what I know, I have a mentor that does tremendously better than me.
Yeah.
And I do well. So don't be scared to do that. But yeah, that's where you can find me at. Jump in the DM if you have any questions. Black Buys Houses. BLAQBUYS Houses.
Hey, well, I appreciate your time today, my brother. One of the big things at the end, and this, I guess I'll end with this as well, is I know I hit on it a little bit at the beginning of the show, but I just want to reiterate the fact that so many times we hear people say, kind of like how Black said at the end, like, if I knew what I knew 10 years ago, I'd be in a better place. But my goal for this show, for In the Smoker, for the networking, for the relationships that I'm building, is that I want to start preventing people from having to continue saying, if I knew what I knew 10 years ago. We know now, and I feel like it is our responsibility to ensure that we are passing this information to people much younger, sooner and sooner and sooner, because that's the only way that we are going to get ahead. But that requires us to do the work. We got to stop sitting around and waiting for someone else to decide to put the pack on and start walking forward. At some point, if no one's doing it for you, hey, get up and you be the one to do it. If you don't see anyone else around motivated, you be the one to get up and be motivated to get some things rolling. Because if you don't start, then who? The famous quote, if not me, then who? So if we're going to expect us to be able to grow on a more massive level, this is what it's going to take. It's going to take us doing the work up front without having to be prompted and without having to go to the complete dark side to get there. If we have the information, we have to be willing to share it, because sharing the information doesn't take any money out of your pocket. That's one of the biggest misconceptions I hear all the time. So for those of you listening, whether you're older, younger, if you have the ability to acquire the information, take the time to learn it, because one of the biggest mistakes that I see people make is they think learning stops after college, not realizing that that's when real life starts and you really have to start learning some stuff. So if we can start learning what we don't know, if you don't know it, instead of going to, like Black said, you're going to see what the status is of, Megan Thee Stallion and Tory Lanez, you can go in there and type in, well, there's a fair tax act coming up. How does that affect me? Like, what is an APR? Because if I walk down the street, I've done this before. I've asked, hey, what is APR? And they go, oh no, right? Like, but you pay it. It affects you. But the point is, I want to encourage everyone to start, if you don't have anyone around you that's doing something, be the one to start it. That's the only way things are going to change. Stop waiting for people to come and do it. Stop waiting for someone else to take the lead. Sometimes we got to take the lead. Is it easy? No. Is it nerve-wracking sometimes? Absolutely. But my question to you is going to be, what's the alternative? And with that being said, I appreciate everyone listening today. Let's get in the smoke.